If day one was about diplomacy and company relations, day two got down to business. Trade was the word on everybody's lips as the World Dairy Summit speakers and delegates turned to the emerging shape of the international markets for dairy products. US Department of Agriculture Chief Economist Joe Glauber kicked things off by talking first about his country's domestic industry and the shape it's in.
We're now looking again at high feed costs, I think, and again, at least for the time being, and at least looking at futures markets, certainly the outlook for milk prices is a little less robust than many of us thought when we were doing forecasts some months ago. But hopefully everything will be weathered.
Glauber went on to speak about the changing face of the US dairy market and alluded to the change in the upcoming Farm Bill to go through Congress, which includes possible cuts to the government subsidies given to dairy farmers.
But I think the big question that it will be facing Congress is whether, in fact, the agriculture will have to take further cuts just because of the large deficits that have come about because of the events over the last 2 years.
Next up was New Zealand's trade representative for dairy at the WTO, Crawford Falconer. He painted a picture for delegates of a world in the near future where trade diplomacy would be a thing of the past.
I am very much of the view that it's not so much the end of history, but the end of trade policy as we know it is visibly evident.
The conversation switched to the Doha round of WTO talks, which stalled in 2008 after rifts arose between developed and developing nations, with agriculture a major issue. Delegates were asked their opinions on the current stall and what their expectation was for the talks in the future. Joe Glauber says the current political climate in the US means any concessions at the WTO talks would be a hard sell to the American public, especially their farming sector.
Still a big political challenge to sell that domestically, I realize that, but I think that the fear I have is the further we move away from it, from July 2008, the harder and harder it will be to put things back in the bottle, as it were.
Next to the podium was Ken Ash, Trade and Agricultural Director for the OECD. He spoke primarily about government policy and the role it plays in much of today's agricultural trade.
The nature of policies that continue to guide agricultural production decisions remain policies that are relatively ineffective, they're relatively inequitable, and they're highly trade distorting.
Ash then picked up an agricultural hot potato, that of foreign investment in productive land.
But it seems apparent that to most observers that the thing that developing countries need most to further their own widespread development, and in particular their agricultural development, is more investment. Now, investment by other countries, by big companies, is in and of itself not a bad thing. It could be a good thing.
And with that, day two came to a close. Economics and global policy will take up another whole day at the conference, clearly the issue of the moment among players in the dairy industry. Drew Chappell, Country 99 TV News.